Now, let me ask you this. What are your memories of being about 15 years old? Well, my guest today is April Jeffers from the Isle of Wight. Her life was turned inside out at that age when her mum was sent to prison and she was left to fend for herself. Today, she works with the charity Children Heard and Seen, which supports children and young people with a parent in prison. Good afternoon, April.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, you are most welcome, and thank you for sharing your story with us. If I can take you back to 15 years of age, what are your memories of that time, the lead up and the aftermath of your mum's sentencing?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really tough. I think at that age, you don't realise the enormity of it. There was lots of police presence, lots of upheaval, lots of quiet conversations going on between the adults that us children weren't involved with. It was just, a lot of it was really scary. We didn't really know what was going on. And then when she was sent to prison, we were all really shocked. We presumed that support services would sort of step in, but it really didn't happen. And I felt so unsupported at that time. And yeah, it was really difficult. Was there any support for you at 15 years old, technically still a child? Yeah, I think, well, no is the answer to that question. There just really wasn't. And I mean, even though it was in the local paper, like Mum of Three goes to prison and our address and everything, I wasn't open to local children's services. I think some school staff were aware, but I remember having some really awkward conversations. I think they felt awkward talking about it. But no, I just sort of carried on.
Can you remember how you felt about your mum at that time?
Not really. I think I was just so sort of caught up in all the trauma of it. I remember feeling worried for her. That's a massive thing for her, going to prison. And she was all the way up in Manchester, so it's a long way away from us. So I do remember being really worried about her and sort of having what I imagined prison to be like from what I'd seen on television you can't quite imagine that at 15.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? You're trying to understand something from a relatively limited understanding of the world.
Definitely.
And at 15, why would you know what it's like inside a women's prison? You know, why would you understand who should and who should be there to support you and the rights that you had to be supported? Who was there for you? Where did you live? What did you do?
So I stayed at home at first in our family home. My brother already lived with his dad. And then I just went to stay with a friend and her family, and I stayed there for sort of a few months. But we had quite a small family on the island anyway, so we didn't have extended family to sort of lean on for support, which again makes it really difficult. But I had a great network of friends at that time. But I think you're quite stigmatised as well. Like you're in a household where there's been drug offences and a parent sent to prison. It felt really shameful for me, and I didn't like to talk about it at the time. And even as an adult, I went years. I have some really close friends that had no idea until a couple of years ago I started talking about it. And actually this happened when I was 15.
Looking at you today, you would have no idea that you had been through something like that, something that I think many people would feel as though that might have really defined them at the age of 15.
Yeah, I think, well, you can go two ways in life, can't you? You can follow the path of your family making those choices, or you can turn things around for yourself. And I think I was always quite motivated to do that. And I applied for college myself, and I went to college and then went on to university and things like that. But statistically, for children with a parent in prison, it's not great statistics. A lot of them go on to commit crimes themselves and end up in prison themselves, unfortunately.
Which is why support operations, sort of at a local authority level, and certainly by charities like Children Heard and Seen are so vital. Let's come on to talk more about that in just a few moments' time. But I'm joined in the studio by April Jeffers from the Isle of Wight, who at the age of 15 had her life turned upside down when her mum was sent to prison for drug offences. April was left to fend for herself and now works with a charity called Children Heard and Seen. Tell us a little bit about what they do and how you got involved.
So I discovered Children Heard and Seen through sort of my work network on the Isle of Wight, and I was so shocked to see that there's actually people out there supporting children with a parent in prison. So I reached out to them and they invited me up to Oxford, where they're based, to help produce a film called Invisible Children. So I was able to get to talk about my lived experience, which was great, and to meet some other people that have also experienced this, because I'd never spoken to anyone before that had a parent in prison.
And when you met those other people, did you feel an instant connection, a level of understanding?
Yeah, like no other. Yeah, and we're still in contact now, and it was so powerful. And we've had lived experience groups since then up at Westminster, which has been great, and there's been so much come out of them. So it's amazing. I'm so
pleased for 15-year-old you. That you've met other people who understand what it's like to have gone through what you've been through. And also, you said a few moments ago, you chose a different path. You chose to get yourself through college. You've chosen a career working in safeguarding within, environments surrounding children. You're now working alongside this charity, supporting them in the work that they do. Tell me, you said a few moments ago about saying this story for the first time a few years ago. Can you remember what it was that made you start speaking more openly about that?
Just I think just because I've kept that to myself for such a long time, and I knew how much it impacted me. And actually, if it impacted me that much, like, there's other people going through that. And I thought, my story can help. If there's a 15-year-old out there now who's going through this, and I can tell my story, and that could help them, that really sort of drove me to do that, inspired me.
How many children have parents in prison?
Well, you'd think we would know that answer, but there's no statutory mechanism to identify those children in England. And I think a lot of people are shocked by that. But no, there still isn't today. So, which is shocking, because this was over 20 years ago for me. And to think things haven't changed and there's potentially children living on their own still is shocking.
So between the Department of Justice and the Department of Education, where you think children under the 18 are generally in education, and Children's Services, nobody knows.
They're not communicating, so schools don't know. I work in a primary school on the island, and we're not informed unless it's a self-disclosure from the family themselves, or if there's specific safeguarding issues that have highlighted them. But even children's social care may not necessarily know. I think everyone thinks someone else is picking up the pieces, whereas that's not always the case.
Gosh, that doesn't seem right at all, does it?
No.
What would you like to see change?
Oh, these children need to be identified, first of all, and then supported, whatever that support looks like. Schools are great. We can put in lots of support in a school. I just can't believe it's not changed still. Just giving these children a chance to be children. There's so much responsibility and sort of shame and stigma on their shoulders. But linking up with a charity like Children Heard and Seen, they can go and have fun. They can speak to other children and have those opportunities that I didn't.
And when we think about the stigma that we talked about, I was sharing with you that somebody I knew from school, her dad went to prison. It wasn't for many, many, many years, but it was several years. And in terms of the context of a 15-year-old's life, 5 years is a long time, right? You've done a lot of changing and a lot of growing up in that time. And whilst I can't remember anybody ever responding negatively towards her, she carried this assumption, almost prejudging what others would say to her with her all the time. And you could really feel it around her. And I wonder if maybe charities like Children Heard and Seen give kids just the chance to take off that load.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're in sort of a fight and flight mode constantly, and especially when things are in the press or nowadays when it's all over social media, you feel like in every situation that everybody knows, everybody's judging you, and you just take on all of that as a child when you absolutely shouldn't. It's not these children's fault that their parents have offended. And
maybe looking after younger siblings too.
Yeah.
And when we think about teenagers, I mean, real littlies, you'd think, you know, you can't go home as a 5-year-old and look after yourself, can you? I mean, it would just wouldn't last a day. But you think a teenager might be able to keep things under the radar, to keep younger siblings together and maybe feel that sense of pressure. But the vulnerability there as well for how they might then be targeted by others who want to lead them down the wrong path is really extreme.
Yeah, and I just don't think you realise at that age how vulnerable you are. But absolutely. And I think a lot of children and young people that are living in those circumstances sort of build up some resilience and coping skills anyway, so can sort of carry on with their daily life. But actually, yeah, I was absolutely a really vulnerable person at the age of 15. But yeah, had no ability to recognise that.
I'm going to ask you a question now, and you could just shake your head and say, Katie, I'm not answering that. Do you have a relationship with your mum today?
So I did, when she returned from prison, we did build up a relationship again. And she was actually really supportive when I started saying, actually, I'm going to be talking about my experiences. It was difficult for her at first to hear that, but actually she's really, really supportive. Yeah.
It's been so nice to meet you. You've given us a lot to think about. And I'm always really humbled and grateful to meet someone who reminds us, actually, don't judge a book by its cover. Everybody's got an opportunity to start again, to try again. And, you know, we've got to look out for one another, haven't we?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, April. April Jeffers from the Isle of Wight, at 15 years old, left to fend for herself when her mum was sent to prison. But today, working with a charity called Children Heard and Seen, sharing her story to support and encourage others.